With the 2023 elections right around the corner, TV Independent speaks with Dr. Victor Alewo Adoji, also fondly referred to as DVAA. Dr. Victor Alewo Adoji is a former Kogi state governorship aspirant in the 2019 general election. Meet Dr. Victor Alewo Adoji's plans for the forthcoming elections as he intends to run again for the senatorial seat to represent his beloved Kogi East under the umbrella of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, plus his plans for the people of Kogi State and many more. Keep watching.
Well, first and foremost, let me thank you so profusely for having me. The corporate world, by and large, itself is another level of schooling, another level of learning, another level of teaching. Most times, people don't seem to understand that, their patterns, mannerisms, achievements, or failures are in large part determined by interactions, collaborations and engagements in the political world or political field. So I moved from the corporate world, of course, what some people may regard as a comfort zone, into what some other people equally regard as the murky, world of politics, because I actually know that is where lives are dimensioned, lives are determined. In fact, even the corporate world from whence I came forth, in large part, is actually determined, by politics. My preference for the platform for policy making further amplifies my knowledge and interest to the extent that engaging in politics, especially that of policy making, defines and redefines our existence as people. So I actually have to move to go and contribute my quota to development of the Nigerian man, development of humanity, and development of our space going forward, but this time around from the point of policy making. Well, there are things about Nigerian politics that most people don't understand. There are the things that happen, and there are the real things that happen, and there are the truths underpinning those things that happen. My experience the first time is actually twofold. My support, from the perspective of those who own our nationality or those who own the nation, which are the plebiscites or the common man, and of course, the incursion, intransigence, or overbearing dominance of those who think they own the people and make this happen the way they want. So to a large extent, I must use this opportunity to show gratitude to those who actually own the nation, the common man, for their participation and cooperation and what they showed the last time. Yes, things didn't go my way, of course, because of what you may refer to as the Nigerian factor, in politics, which, from my own calculation, is actually de-escalating, as most people are becoming interested now in politics, are becoming very concerned, not just, as passerbys, or as actors, in the whole equation of politics. So it was a, it was a rewarding experience, a revealing experience, and an educative experience. And the shortfalls or shortcomings from the other experience, I'm actually bringing to bear now. Because I think now, we are better honed, better schooled, better trained, and better equipped, to face it going forward. So it's going to be a different ball game in 2023, God willing. Well, I'm a professional in politics. I don't lay claims to being a seer or a prophet. I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't presuppose, I have clairvoyance. However, those who are more impacted in terms of misleadership are actually the thugs, as it is. And I think their coloration of participation in politics is changing, and we're going to see less, of this, going forward. Because you meet them and you talk to them, for a pot of porridge, they've literally mortgaged their future, and they are more desperate than they were to put things right. You must have seen some skits where some of these so-called thugs, I hate to call them that because they are children of other people, I now begin to ask questions. That if I become a thug for you and win an election, will you allow me to marry your daughter? Now, as comical as that may sound, you are beginning to realize that, they now know that they cannot be used like tractors, to make a road, and later are disqualified from plying that same road, So they're becoming more interested in the sense of active participants and not just thugs, to destroy things. Now, there's an economic angle to all of this, because the rational choice theory in economics will always tell you, you do things that will benefit you. So they give them money to engage in some of this mayhem, accompanying the activities. But I think and I believe and I pray and I hope that we're going to see less of this, going forward. And if all of us are afraid of the activities of thugs, touts, and don't engage in politics, then who then goes in there to do the job? So some of us have decided to leave our comfort zones, high-paying jobs at the highest level to be involved because somebody must take the risks. And I believe even the thugs you are alluding to are bearing the brunt of bad leadership, misleadership, and are going to contribute their own quota this time around to make sure we achieve going forward. As an economist and somebody who has a PhD at the highest level, at the credit management level, when you say something is expensive or an endeavor is expensive, what I need to do is to segment or to compartmentalize it. What or which areas account for the huge cost? Is it the cost of advertising, your programs, the cost of bribing, the electorate, or the cost of bribing the authorities? Yes, it is expensive to the end, to the end that you don't have anything to offer and you have to soldier your way through. But when you are a good product, I can assure you that the expense areas are actually reduced. I am not one of those who are intent on buying people's conscience, to woo them into supporting my candidacy. Secondly, we are coming with a social contract where we are partners with those who are intending to superintend, upon. In which case, even you, the interviewer, is going to contribute to a common purpose that we're going to use to move the election going forward. You hear in the US, for example, when candidates emerge, you have corporate organizations, friends contributing to a common purpose so that they can fund the elections. That is the kind of instrumentality, the kind of strategy I intend to do so that the incidence of the burden of expenditure on me is less, and all of us will not be seen as working together. So the mentality of, you must need a huge war chest to be engaged in Nigerian politics is not only defeatist, it is escapist, and it is discouraging for those who have something to offer but do not have the means. That has to change going forward, and I'm more than willing to be that instrument of change that Nigeria has been waiting for. Well, the truth of the issue is, most of our representatives before now, only wanted to be senators. The reason why they wanted to be senators, most of them, I'm not saying all of them, a few of them actually had the vision. Most of them became senators without even knowing the kind of people they govern. You may want to know that in my own part of Kogi State, the Kogi East, we have about 8,418 villages, about 712 hamlets, and then the territory, the constituency starts from Ibaji, the border town to Edo, and terminates in Omala, the border town to Toto, Nasara, and all that. Now, what are we going to do eventually? We're going to, first and foremost, start with a social contract. Now, I keep emphasizing this issue of a social contract. It's about meeting with the people and asking them, what do you think you need? And then agreeing with them on what they need, and then bringing the modalities, the model that will cause them to achieve those things together. This time around, applying national resources. I'll give an example. My part of the state, Kogi State, is waterlocked, is airlocked, and is landlocked. I'm not saying I'm going to ask or cause an effort to be brought there. That is not economically viable. But you can open up my part of that state by building a bridge across Shintaku, which is in the Basa area, and across Bagana, which is the Omala area, and across Ida, which is the Edo area. The moment you open up the area, the movement of vehicular and human movement alone is more enough to open up that economy. A second thing I will tell you, we have in my constituency one of the highest places that produce the highest grade of cashew nuts. And when the season comes, you see trucks upon trucks, pickups upon pickups, taking all this cashew out. And I sit back and I say, no, we cannot be smiling that we are making money from selling cashew nuts. The moment you see them going out, what you have going out there is actually people's jobs going out, people's livelihood going out. So as a senator representing them, I'm going to make sure that those cashew nuts are semi-processed within my constituency, whereby you create jobs. It is the semi-processing now that takes jobs outside. It may interest you to know that part of these cashew nuts are, according to what I hear, washed somewhere in Ghana, semi-processed in Kenya, and shipped to Europe. In Ghana, where they are washed, they are creating thousands of jobs. In Kenya, where they are semi-processed, thousands of jobs before they are shipped to Europe. Why don't we domicile these processes within Kogi East, and then you can begin to create jobs and take people off the streets, in which case you can economically begin to lampoon, the prevalence of thuggery. These people are not by nature thugs, for example. They are not by nature thieves, for example. But it is in a want for things to do, a lack of something to do, that they get indulged in some of these social, misdemeanors. So if we deal with that, for example, the economy is open and people will now have a means, of livelihood. Now, I'm not vying for the chief executive of the state, but I can engender a policy from the center that will make that happen. A third one, if that will, make more sense. As an economist, one of the major problems we have in third world, emerging, developing countries, especially Nigeria, is with the metric of measurement. If I tell you, the Nigerian budget will move by this and they use the GDP, I am saying authoritatively that that metric is wrong. Until that metric is changed, then chances of us developing will be very, very slim. All other countries that developed did a change in their metric without as much as an announcement. So those are the kind of things we are bringing some around, because we need a big push to move Nigeria forward. Once Nigeria moves forward, Kogi State will not be left behind, Kogi East will not be left behind, and the Igala people will not be left behind. My brother, if you are a science student in a secondary school, you do English, mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, and then you have grades ranging between 0 and 100. And then if the person scores English, 15, mathematics, 10, physics, 5, chemistry, 5, geography, 5. It's for you to say the score. The most important rubric or measurement of the performance of any governor is what? Is the livelihood, security of the people. I would not want to understate it, but I think an excursion to my state will reveal much more than what I am likely to say. So it's not even in my place, to rate him, because there's no metric I can use to rate him. Once you take excursion to Kogi State, you see what I'm talking about. I want to leave it at that. If I get that right, I don't think he withheld assent. He actually tweaked it a bit and sent it back to them, and he's willing, as it were, to sign subject to the amendments he has sent to them. Now, the contentious issues in that bill largely was about the direct or indirect primaries. Is it not the same country where we have had parties use the direct primary situation, and they tell you their candidate had about 142,000, and in the general election, he can't even boast of 50,000. So whichever modality you use, whether direct or indirect, it is subject to manipulation until our people become genuinely interested in politics and willing to take action to make sure, they actually, as it were, guard, their mandates. Two things the people must do. They must see themselves as gatekeepers, and they must see themselves as housekeepers. Until that is done, without particular interest, and then whatever policy is brought out there is one policy that can be manipulated, tweaked, or twisted. But I want to believe the National Assembly, this time around, has shown that on this particular note, they are with the people, And I'm sure that whether they decide to veto it or decide to go with the president, we are going to have something that is better than where we are. One aspect of it that nobody is talking about, which actually delights me, is the fact that results will now be transmitted electronically. It's a major leap forward for our democracy, and I hope that the authorities that are supposed to supervise this situation do not do anything to sidestep our expectation or upend people's agitation to have democracy the way it should be in Nigeria. There's this proverb in my place where I come from, that if you want to know how to keep your husband, seek advice from a woman who could not keep her home. PDP we have learned our lessons, and you will agree with me that in the history of democracy in Nigeria, in the annals of the democratic practice in Nigeria, this is the first time you are having a seamless, quarrel-less convention by any political party in Nigeria. Before the convention, the people there was some smiles and some not too good impressionable faces. But after the convention, virtually everyone was smiling. The first time that we're having a consensus arrangement where everyone is happy. It is not in my place to talk about the APC, but someone told me that they have about 92 or 93 chairmen across the 36 states, and I begin to wonder, 36 states and you have 92 chairmen, then which means you have states who have 2 or 3 or 4 chairmen. So when they call their convention, I wonder those who they will be inviting. It's not, I feel for them, but sorry, they have a lot to learn from the PDP. I think this time around, they should just rest the party and come to those who are veterans in the PDP to teach them, how to practice democracy. And I wish them well. Well, you see, zoning is good to simmer tempers, to calm down tempers. But I will any day, vote for competence, vote for character, vote for ability over zoning. Now, the reason why we're talking about zoning is because of the plethora of injustices you have within the system. But once you have a competent leader that is not destabilized, a non-nepotistic leader, a non-sectionalist leader, these feelings, these agitations will naturally simmer down. Yes, I believe if zoning is going to ameliorate, as it were, the flaring tempers, fine. But I will vote for competence, character, above zoning any day. Well, first and foremost, my vow is to those who gave me the mandate. I have, if elected as a senator, first and foremost, a duty to the people, far and above the government. And I think the problem here is there is no strict dividing line between loyalty to the state and loyalty to the party. I will not be more loyal to my party than I will be to the state. So once they can have that delineation and that ramified in such a way that the loyalty is to the state, that's the Nigerian state, and as against the party, a number of things will change. Secondly, I don't know how most of them got there. So most of them could have been there. Some of them rather could have been there on the basis of political patronage. But if you have been there on account of a social contract with the people, knowing fully whether you are responsible to the people, then the people actually ask questions. So I don't know who they are responsible to. If you are responsible to the people, then you must do things that will support the people. Having said that, I am not one who will encourage misalignment or disalignment between the parliament and the executive. But it has to be done in such a way that the interests of the nation and the people is paramount, as against just keeping a relationship that will just make everyone happy. By your admission, you have said what the people feel about them. I wouldn't want to say what I feel about them, but I know that it can be better. That's why some of us are actually coming into the 10th Assembly to give the desired pep so that Nigerians can benefit from the democracy they have worked so hard to achieve. Well, you see, I watched the interview a few days ago between Sheung and our president, where he was magnanimous enough to reel out some statistics. You know, the exchange rate before this government came into power and the exchange rate now, the inflation rate, and then and now. And I dare add that under the watch of this current government, Nigeria has unfortunately, been tagged with two unwholesome and uncharitable names. One, the poverty capital, of the world, as well as this country with the highest number of unemployed youths in the world. Now, based on these four statistics, if you were to vote for before and now, where would you vote? I think the answer that I can give is the same answer that you will give. I would rather vote for better and not bad, excellent and not about to. So I believe Nigerians have tested, an alternative, and they discovered that the alternative, is nothing but pseudo. The alternative is nothing but, a cocktail of lies. This time around, as a party, we knew we made mistakes, but we are going to correct those mistakes and even be better going forward. So Nigerians will definitely vote for the real change, that will move Nigeria to the Eldorado they expect. Well, you see, like I said earlier, if I were to ask this question, I would have said, okay, what will be your promise to us? Because this issue of telling them literally ostracize me from them because we are together. It's not about what I'll be telling them. It's about what I'll be telling us. We have been in this boat, for years. I'll be rowing together. So what we'll be telling us is that the time, has come for us to take our destiny in our hands by making sure we lay the right foundation for sustainable progress, which is why I made allusion to a social contract before now. We'll talk about opening the economy. We'll talk about bonding. Let me even tell you one thing. In Anambra, in Edo, and part of Ekiti, there are people who are of Kogi extraction, particularly the Igalas, that are in these places, who don't seem to see themselves as Igala people because no one has gone to them. We're not talking about to your tent, O Israel. Bring them together, and for the first time in the history of our evolution as a people, realize that we are the 9th largest ethnic group in Nigeria, and we need to be heard. I'll give another example. In the entire Middle Belt, North Central, there is no ethnic nationality that has the kind of number of senior advocates that we have. Our people are extremely very educated, extremely very enterprising, and all we need is what? To be able to pull our energies together so that the sum total of the pulling together benefits virtually everyone. We are talking about engendering prosperity where no one is better off and no one is worse off. We are talking about pro-poor growth, and we are talking about inclusive growth, where people take ownership of their destinies, where one person, cannot just decide us, but us decides for one person and for the rest of us. So that is the kind of mandate that I think one is asking for them, is the kind of mandate that I think will take us across the river, is the kind of mandate that I think will deliver. Because we are in competition with other ethnic nationalities. If you say there are 3 main ethnic nationalities in Nigeria, you mentioned the Hausas, you mentioned the Igbos, you mentioned the Yorubas. We want to be able to see that a few years down the line, once you mention the Hausas, you mention the Yorubas, you mention the Igbos, you mention the Igalas. I have, and I will mention. Yes, a number of people have godfathers, but I have God the Father. My Bible says that is he who is seated in heaven and makes the earth his footstool. That person who is seated in heaven and makes the earth his footstool is the person behind me, and it's called God the Father. Not Godfather in the sense in which it is meant. Secondly, I have smaller gods, the Father as well, which are those people who are going to give me the mandate. And I can assure you that the Godfather in the context in which you mean it, that I understand. I have all of them who have decided some around that they are not going to be godfather to me, but are going to be co-travelers, So it's the mandate of the people that I'm asking for, and they are the thing gods, but we have God, the Father, and not Godfather in the sense in which you mean.